Hey everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your afternoon and or mornings to dive into the world of SaaS operations. We're going to wait maybe a couple seconds here before we get kicked off, but just quickly by way of introduction, my name is Jeff St. Louis. I oversee our NetSuite practice here at Plative, and I'm joined by Larry Wu, who is one of our principal consultants, almost exclusively working with software as a service organizations. And today, the intent of the webinar is to open up the kimono in regards to how we're helping organizations streamline their back office, leveraging NetSuite as that tool, and some of the very practical yet high impact solutions that we've enabled leveraging generative AI. So a lot to cover throughout today's presentation, but hopefully it's fun and interactive. There's also a chat feature that you'll see. And so if you have questions, feel free to throw it into the chat. We'll try to either get to it while we're going through the content and or layer it in organically. But just to cover what the agenda will look like today, we're going to spend a very, very brief amount of time talking about who we are as an organization, then dive into what we're seeing, hearing from organizations that are looking to get a competitive edge and looking towards their tech stack to effectively do so, and how NetSuite foots the bill. And then lastly, we'll dive into how NetSuite is really a powerhouse when it comes to billing and subscription, revenue management, and providing you with all the consolidated information you need in one centralized location to drive very intelligent and informative business decisions. As mentioned, Q&A, throw it in the chat throughout, but at the very least, we'll take a pit stop towards the end to make sure any questions, thoughts, comments that are shared by the group are addressed. But let's dive in. And so a little bit about who we are at Plative. So we are both a Salesforce and NetSuite consultancy focused on helping organizations unify their business from marketing to ERP. And we operate across several verticals, software as a service, of course, being one of them, but many other professional services, financial services, nonprofit, manufacturing, you name it. And the idea of trying to consolidate their systems onto leading platforms is front and center. And even louder now is the conversation around how can we layer in an AI strategy to help supercharge our organization. And so that's where we can help. We have a variety of different services here at Plative, whether it's your first time exploring NetSuite or Salesforce and you're hoping to migrate off of a QuickBooks or a Sage onto a leading solution, or if you're simply looking for an organization to help plan your future systems landscape. We might be leveraging the tools we're talking about today. However, where do we go from here? How do we continue to evolve as our business scales? And with that, we also have ongoing services to help you in every iteration of your organization. And one of the ways I think we've been having the largest impact is in and around helping companies and our clients assess their AI readiness. It really is a spectrum of where some of our prospects and our customers are on this journey. But the interest is certainly there overall. And our goal is to help you understand where you are versus where you could be and lay out a roadmap to hopefully help you get there. In reality, many organizations lack this strategy and certainly the governance strategy to support that. And so go to our website. We can certainly get you sorted out, plative.ai, to have a conversation. But pulling on that thread in and around the current state of affairs across all industries is the AI revolution. And as mentioned, few companies have a corporate strategy in place today. But at the same time, the statistics show that 3 out of 4 of your employees are likely using AI in some way, shape, or form without you knowing, or potentially you're aware of it. But in regards to having the right scaffolding around it to ensure that we're using the right tools, that we're trusting the data sources in which it's coming from, is front and center for many of the software as a service organizations that we speak to. And how we help enable AI forward strategy first starts with the balancing act of establishing practical solutions, but ensuring that there's a trusted infrastructure in and around it. And on the right-hand side, what you'll see is the three core tenets to our perspective of what that strategy should look like for a software as a service organization. First step is consolidating your data. And so consolidate it into trusted solutions like a NetSuite, like a Salesforce, like your data lakes. Beyond that, then layering on a model. For us, that's Anthropic. But then most importantly, what we're hearing above all is the need for AI solutions to be very intuitive and accessible across end users. And so for us, every AI solution that we enable, and especially within a software as a service organization, needs to be in the work path of their end users. And so we'll show you what that looks like in practice today. But once again, it all starts with having your data in the right place. So if you're here in QuickBooks, go to our website, let's chat, let's get you out of there, especially if you have high growth goals like the rest of your peers in the ecosystem. And to build on that common, what we typically see when an organization comes to us at first, when it comes to the lead to quote process, there's a myriad of solutions that are being leveraged. They might have some solutions like a MailChimp in isolation, capturing initial interest, or being leveraged from a marketing automation standpoint. We might be leveraging a more robust CRM like a Salesforce or potentially a HubSpot. But then we have other data living in other tools that we might be leveraging, especially from a customer service perspective. From the lead to quote and customer management, it tends to be a fairly disparate process. And the same could be said when it comes to order to cash and finance operations. There we tend to see and hear the same thing, that we might have our AR and our AP and GL in one system. We're managing inventory in a very labor intensive way in a spreadsheet because of the nuance of our billing model, because we have software as a service, we have hardware, but then we also capture usage of our software. There's the need for another solution like Azora. Regardless, the technology spaghetti, if you will, tends to grow pretty substantially. And the challenge with that even more so is that there's a lack of integration from the lead to quote to order to cash process. And this tends to be one of the biggest hamstrings in a software as a service organization truly scaling, is by not being able to have a system or at least a landscape that can ensure that information from your first touch point to a client to hopefully winning their business to creating their contract, the orders and the nuances of the billing required to ensure that the company is paid on time, results in a lot of pain points. And some of that being just the simple manual errors of ensuring data from one system to the other is accurate, missed upsell opportunities where our team isn't necessarily translating the information back to our sales team in a timely manner, redundancy, lost productivity, and the list truly goes on. And so for us, when we think about what the best in class leading solution should look like, no surprise is that it's a mixture of both Salesforce and NetSuite. Here at Plative, we believe that Salesforce and NetSuite are truly better together, and where we can help is understanding where Salesforce should stop and where NetSuite should begin. And in the blue area in this graphic, you'll see areas that there are conversations to certainly be had. But what we can work with you on is helping to enable this future state landscape. And in some cases, it might be truly future state. We have many organizations that are running, and software organizations running the entirety of their business off of NetSuite, and it's a very capable platform. But if you are looking or exploring Salesforce, then we are experts in understanding how the two cloud giants coexist. And so to see that in practice, what the typical lead to cash process looks like, or at least should look like for a software as a service organization, is that within Salesforce, what you'll typically see is that leads, so initial interest, MQLs, are finding their way into the system, whether that's natively of Salesforce or an integration between commonly used tools like a HubSpot or a Marketo. But that lead information and the journey from lead to opportunity lives and breathes natively within Salesforce. One step further to reflect the complexity that can exist for software as a service organizations, and here at Plative, we have many clients that have a subscription offering that they provide, but with that, they also then manage the implementation service. So there's a professional services element to their business model. Then in addition to that, they also sell hardware of some kind, whether it might be a smart device, it could be a tool that helps. We have some pretty cool clients in the IoT space. Regardless, the commonality there is that quoting can be pretty complex, and without a tool that can manage it, it could be very labor intensive and error prone. That is typically abolished when it comes to leveraging something like Salesforce CPQ under the Revenue Cloud umbrella, as it allows you to dynamically create products and price books, have discount schedules, pre-baked approval process, if then, like if Y then X type relationships, where if I'm selling this product, then I always need to include this product, but maybe not this. And so for our software companies that need a level of dynamic flexibility when it comes to building a quote to meet the needs of our clients, Salesforce CPQ is very strong at doing that. And once that quote is then signed, a few things then happened in regards to an order and a contract being created. And here's where we can certainly help here at Plative. Contract management, where orders should live and originate, is also a point of discussion that can look different from one organization to the other. And I know Larry has some opinions that I'm sure he'll share as he's going through his demonstration today. But most importantly, how do we go from the data coming from our CRM into NetSuite? The beauty with NetSuite is that billing, contract management, subscription, revenue management, fulfillment in any way, shape, or form can all live natively within the platform. And the beauty of that as well is that there are a lot of similarities in the overall object structure between NetSuite and Salesforce, making it quite easy for these two platforms to coexist. And so once we're fortunate of hopefully earning the business, we'll have the same customer created in NetSuite. We'll push over the order information from Revenue Cloud or CPQ into NetSuite. And then from there, a series of triggered actions to manage the subscriptions based on the products that were sold, whether they were software, service, or hardware, in addition to managing the entire revenue management cycle, which can look different based on how we acknowledge what were sold and when. And then lastly, sharing that information between both platforms. And so at a glance, this is typically what we view as the best-in-class lead to cash process. But I've said so much over the last 6 or 7 minutes, would rather show you what that looks like from the handoff from a CRM tool, if NetSuite isn't your CRM, and what that looks like from taking the order to managing billing, invoicing, and then the eventual revenue recognition. So without further ado, Larry, I'll give you the mic if that works for you.
Yeah. I was actually going to interject because I was like, whoa, Jeff, you've been talking for a lot. Maybe I should point out something in between to give you a little bench break or something. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Larry Wu. I'm a principal NetSuite consultant here at Plative. Been using NetSuite, working with NetSuite for the last, at this point in time, I haven't figured out the term yet. It's over 10 years, 10 to 15 years. Before that, Oracle PeopleSoft. I've always been part of the ERP, CRM landscape from my entire career. So as Jeff was talking about kind of the handoff between Salesforce to NetSuite, let me just show my screen. This is what's called a NetSuite sales order. This is, for those that don't have NetSuite, it can be used as an object of a committed order that was taking an approved order. So as Jeff was saying, when Salesforce and NetSuite are working together, the customer is created, and this order that was put together over in Salesforce, approved and gone through all the signings and all that, lands in NetSuite with very little interaction between a human being unless you decide to insert your own control gates. Again, for those that are in NetSuite or thinking about going in NetSuite, these are things that you want to consider and think about as part of your process, especially when systems are talking to each other. It's great. It saves a lot of time and it creates a lot of efficiencies. But you also have to make sure that you balance it, as Jeff's lovely slide there, with financial controls that you need in place. This sales order is also attached to an application that Plative has built over quite a long period of time. We call it the billing engine. Now, this is, for those around the room that might be of my vintage, yes, it is a customization, but don't panic. The C word in the NetSuite ecosphere is not an evil word, unlike, say, 20 years ago. We've basically created an augmentation on top of NetSuite. We were very mindful about creating this billing engine such that we had a few guiding principles, if you will. One of them being, if anyone that's ever used NetSuite before or is a NetSuite professional can come in and look at your NetSuite and go, oh yeah, it looks like NetSuite. We didn't want to change how the behavior of NetSuite's records wanted to function, so that our augmentation can assist in things. Now, our billing engine has been built, as I said, over a long period of time. In fact, it first started off as simply a contract management system. Client wanted to manage a specific purchasing contract, sales contract with a customer, wanted to encapsulate transactional information against that contract, and they had to conform to certain rules about that contract. But then time marches on. And that, we're talking, when I was saying it evolved back when people were selling on-prem software. Yeah, we'll ship you a disk. We'll sign you up. So this even goes beyond SaaS. It has taken a long voyage to get here, a long voyage of seeing other clients like yourselves functioning on their day-to-day, how their business has evolved. Our billing engine has evolved alongside it. This order that was taken, and I'll kind of show it the orders right now. I put this little block here at the top because I wanted to kind of show a story about this order that has purchased several subscription licenses and then a change over time. So this is telling the story of, as you can see, 3 different software products sold to this customer. Two are starting, quote unquote, in this year, in 2024. And the other one is actually starting in the next year. We know how complex subscriptions can be. You're not just buying a Spotify subscription and running it for an entire year, one product. Thank you very much. You have things that might start and stop at different times. You have billing frequencies that might start and stop at different times. Even though it's one single subscription, we've spoken with many of our clients, and the idea of, oh, one subscription, one date, one billing time. As much as a consultant, that makes my job easier. We're not seeing that as much, right? We're seeing a lot more flexibility because your products might function in different ways. Your customers are asking for different billing methods. This story is telling about an annual upfront billing subscription. We are using standard NetSuite billing frequencies. So however you defined it in the past, or you have them defined right now, we can continue using those, be it monthly, quarterly, biannual, or if you use custom bespoke schedules that are negotiated with a client on very specific dates. Those original definitions that you might have, if you're already on NetSuite, you will continue using that moving forward. The one thing that our billing engine does create on top of the order is effectively the contract record. As I said, it spawned from from the contract management world. We still have that object and that philosophy in place. Whether you call it the subscription master, a contract, an agreement, the whole point of this record is to make sure that we encapsulate everything that's happening, additional purchases, reductions, additions, year over year, or perhaps you create a new contract on an annual basis based on their term, or you have a contract that's effectively the life of that customer. It creates effectively this object, which we call a billing record right now. Before it was called the contract. And this acts as our rules of engagement for the system to manage this subscription moving forward. As you can imagine, as much as AI has advanced forward, we are still attempting to tell the not so smartest thing in the universe, a computer system, what to do. Our billing record provides those rules and those logics and encapsulates it for that specific customer so that it knows, oh, this person bills on this time, this is what they own, here's my future predicted billings based off of the schedule that we have, if any, what are all the transactions that are happening. This is kind of, from our subscription management point of view, our center of the universe here. You can also, working with our consultants, look at specific metrics, heads up metrics about this specific subscription that can give you instant intelligence about this. So maybe you're on the phone with the client, or you want to look specifically at what's happening with this. I have a few stats in here that are very popular, like total number of invoices that we've issued for the life, how many remaining, how much have we invoiced at this point, how much remaining for this specific contract, so on and so on and so on. I added a few that weren't calculated by the system right now, but something like maybe what's the monthly recurring revenue. We'll be looking at some SaaS reporting later on, but this is, as I always tell my clients, what do you need to know? What are those kind of top 3, top 5 metrics? When I look at a subscription and I need to make a decision or act upon something, what do I need to know? Because you can, reporting is an evolutionary process. You're never going to have every single metrics, and metrics will change over time as your business changes. This is meant to be very operational. Hey, I just want to know the quick bits without kind of diving into the details. The billing record also tells me what does this contract customer own as part of the subscription. As I mentioned before, this evolved over time. So whether you want to only include or see recurring subscription products, or as Jeff kind of mentioned, maybe you have hardware products that are associated with this subscription, or maybe you have one-time purchases that are important for the life and understanding the entire narrative of the subscription. We can capture that as orders come through that are related to this subscription. My billing plans are just that. What are my plans to bill for this subscription? This is all taken from that sales order that you saw over here. We interpret it. No one hand entered anything that you're seeing on the screen right now. It is understanding based on what was purchased, kind of the terms, what year am I in, all of that encapsulated information, including some of the information here and just key dates and when we want to bill and the frequency. This record is actually built ahead of time for you so that you can see, oh, okay, for this particular customer, I have so many invoices going into the future. You can use this table. This is a table that you can report against to look at future billings going into the future, so you can get a good sense of what your cash basis is going to be outward into the future, knowing that at that point in time, you're going to be issuing an invoice come January 1st, 2025. Now, I've kind of jumped into the DeLorean time machine with my subscription here, and I've generated all the invoices ahead of time just to kind of advance the story. Did I just aid myself by saying DeLorean time machine, Jeff? I think I may have done that already by mistake. But we know that, again, subscriptions get complicated. Things happen. Our billing engine can also predict those things. So this original order came in from January 1st, 2024 to establish the main part of that subscription. But then maybe something like on 7 months later in June, they wish to purchase more licenses. I'm already sitting in July. I need to prorate. I need to add this to next year so that when they renew or when 2025 rolls around, their entitlement has grown. Our billing record captures all of that if we see a change order come through. And again, this change order can come directly from Salesforce. Hey, this particular subscription, some things happened to it. They bought some more. Great. Let's make sure that our billing record understands those new rules. Does it influence, and do we need to recalculate our billing plans moving forward? Well, of course, because I have to now generate an invoice come July. If it was a monthly bill, then yes, all the monthly bills after that add-on happened would need to be adjusted, right? Need to be recalculated so that your forecasting gets updated, and also NetSuite knows, oh, come this time period, I need to generate an invoice of this value, not the old value. Very, very common with anyone with subscription products, because again, gone are the days where you lock them in for 1 or 2 years and forever hold your peace. We live in a much different subscription world these days. At least that's what I'm seeing out there on the field. Products can also be identified as add-ons so that we always know what was purchased originally and what was considered an add-on. You might also have, when things go year to year over time, you might have an automatic uplift. You want the system to calculate that for you so that at the sales cycle, you're not relying on someone to map out, maybe you have a 5-year subscription deal and there's a uplift of 10% each year. Our system, and talking with our clients, we see that. We've incorporated that into that logic so that you can set up that initial order and tell us, yes, there's this one will have an uplift of X%. As a result, we also adhere to all the needs of the advanced revenue management module within NetSuite, also known as ARM, which does all your revenue recognition. Whether you're using a fulfillment rule, a billing event rule, contract sign, or even a custom revenue event, our billing engine does not use its own method of revenue recognition. If you have very specific rules for all your different products, you can define them just like how NetSuite wants you to define them. If you didn't have this billing augmentation, it responds accordingly. So whatever rule that NetSuite allows you to do with ARM, we don't restrict you from continuing to do using those. Because that was kind of the main thing, again, I said at the top, we didn't want any of the great features that are going to be enhanced over time that NetSuite offers that's going to lock you into place. Some things I want to kind of take away for those that might be interested, going a little deeper down the rabbit hole about how the billing engine works. Maybe you're saying, hey, Larry, I have different subscription rules for different products, or maybe a family of products. Well, we allow that as well. We have what's effectively called a subscription profile. We have 3 in my environment here that effectively allows us to define, again, the rules of how this subscription works. Maybe these subscriptions bill mid-month. They bill at the end of the month. Maybe not only do I create an invoice, I want to create another sales order, or maybe at the end of it, I need to create an opportunity. Whatever the case may be, working with our consultants and listening to your story about how your subscriptions traverse through their life cycle, we can help you put this together as you need it. This is a development platform also for all of our clients. It is a one-time purchase. I'm sure Jeff will talk about it. It is not recurring subscription. Our product here you're looking at is not a subscription product, kind of ironic in that way. And working with our consultants, we can help make this bespoke to you. We have a set of business logic that we've incorporated in here that from what we've seen as leading practices. But if you do have some very specific things that you need, we can talk with our experts and our development team to make sure that these subscriptions work for you, because we want this to be a seamless piece of activity for you. We want your billings to be predictive. We don't want you to look at every single one of your contracts at month end and go, okay, did I send out the bill at the right time and is the amount correct? Now, I've spoken a lot and done a lot of hand waving myself. So, Jeff, I'm going to pass it back to you for now. And if there's any questions at the end, we can also come back to looking at the billing engine.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll take the screen back from you and we'll just quickly summarize what we had covered, right? So many of you are here with the intent of how can I get an advantage and how does NetSuite play a part in that when it comes to competing within the software as a service space? And as mentioned, it all starts with your ability to consolidate your information, reducing your technical debt. How do we get as few systems around the organization and then stitch them together to streamline how quickly information goes from point A to point B? Now that we have that information consolidated in NetSuite, how can I then automate and streamline the billing, subscription management, the invoice management that Larry had walked us through to ensure that quotes or invoices are going out the door in a timely manner and it's going out the door with very little human intervention? In addition to that, now that we have all of that information across the various products that we sell, how can we then report off of that? And that's where we're going to go now in today's webinar. How do we or at least display the critical SaaS KPIs and metrics we need to understand the health of the organization and drive decisions off of that? And then once we have that data, how can we innovate on it? And so we've talked a lot about AI, and we believe there's maybe few true practical applications that are tangible that you can look at and feel. And so we'll show you now a few examples that we've deployed not only for ourselves, but for individuals likely similar to those on today's call. And so zooming out from my presentation, we are going to dive right back in to NetSuite. And so what you should see here is a live NetSuite instance. If you're not going to Suite World, it's not too late. First and foremost, get yourself a ticket. We'll be there. We'll have a booth and we'll be talking a lot more about what we've been discussing today. But here, as soon as I sign into NetSuite, leadership within the organization, software as a service organization, I want the health of the business. I want to understand what's been my recent upsell ARR, what churn should I be aware of within the organization, what's the renewal rate that we're seeing by product or by department. Regardless, all of that information is available to me right here on my dashboard. But what if I could actually have a conversation with it? And so what you're looking at here is what we've enabled in a GPT-like functionality for NetSuite. And so if I wanted to see top 5 ARR accounts as an example, I can simply enter that here. And Plato, which can be named anything, just related to what we do here at Plative, is going to go fetch that information. Now, that information can come from a variety of spots. It could come from a saved search, an analytics workbook that you might have had, or unstructured data as well within your NetSuite instance. And without further ado, Plato has gone out and got me the information about the accounts. But it doesn't stop there. What if I was interested about churn? Similar process. Plato knows where to go. Plato's going to come back, provide that information to me. And I have one more question based on whatever comes up. I'll probably want to look into what accounts should I focus on? And because Plato has the context of what I care about, again, in regards to ARR, churn, upsell, Plato has the ability to bring me that information right at my fingertips. So I don't have to click through a series of custom reports or searches or a variety of different tabs to get the information that I'm looking for. As mentioned, AI solutions should be directly in the work path of your employees. And so one step further to that, now that you have not only your information consolidated in NetSuite, but the foundation and the UI that can tap into the other tools you might be leveraging within your business, let's take a look at that at a more advanced scale. And so what you're looking at is actually the way that we leverage Slack internally. And so here is our AI assistant console, giving us the ability to ask all of our core systems information about opportunities, projects, invoices, orders, you name it. But in a very similar use case in the Ask NetSuite, if I wanted to ask that exact question, I'm the CRO, but I'm on the road. I didn't have a chance to actually log into NetSuite. I wanted to get that information as I'm stepping into a board meeting. If I were to say top 5 ARR accounts and I hit submit, you're going to see a very similar use case pop up here next to messages. And so here you're going to see, and this is actually important in the inner monologue. What this reflects is where Plato is actually sourcing the data from. So this is a form of quality assurance to ensure that, okay, the data I'm looking at is actually reliable. It's coming from a logical point of reference. And this is where we can help train the model to ensure that it's going and fetching the information that you need. And so what you'll see, same answer that we would have seen in NetSuite. Beyond that, Plato being very helpful. Why don't we chart this for you? So we can get very creative in some of the graphics that we can present information in relation to the business. But one step further as well, sometimes we have other information. So I know we've talked about a lot of Salesforce and NetSuite better together, but many of our customers are leveraging NetSuite CRM. And so let's say that I put on the hat of a sales rep. I could be a business development representative, an account executive, and my leader comes up to me and says, hey, heard about Big Five Sporting Goods, could be an opportunity to sell into that account. So me as a BDR, I'm going to get to work, or an account executive. And so what you're going to see here is NetSuite, or Plato asking NetSuite questions about Big Five Sporting Goods. But yeah, go ahead, Larry.
No, Jeff, I just, while it's doing, I just want to kind of iterate, because a lot of the questions that you've been asking are great. Typically either like managerial, executive like level, to kind of help folks envision this can be deployed to all levels in your organization. So if you're the AR manager and you simply ask, of all my customers, who do I need to pick up the phone and call because of I'm chasing them for Dunnings? It can tell you that. Or what do I need to, how do I do this inside NetSuite? So Plato can do both sides of the coin, looking at your data, and also if you're stuck, or if maybe you're looking at introducing a piece of functionality, it will, now hopefully it won't take away my job, Jeff, at least not yet, but at least it will get you well-versed in it so that you can have a good conversation if that is something that you want to pursue. So I just want to add that context. I see that Plato responded. Please take it away.
Yeah, no, and it's additive to exactly what I was going to mention of the various use cases that can be deployed based on whoever you are within an organization. And foundationally, what you're seeing at here, the way in which it's configured is that it's built off of the user permission and security that you would regularly have in your Salesforce, in your NetSuite. And that's what's driving what you have access to or not. And so still through the lens of myself being a sales rep reaching out to Big Five Sporting Goods, you'll see that Plato brought this information back to me. But it didn't just pull it from NetSuite. It also pulled it from other tools that might be valuable to me, like Apollo or a Zoom Info as an example. It's scraping the web to get also relevant Google information. It's looking at their LinkedIn and pulling that in. And what that allows you, once again, is to have a comprehensive view of, in this case, this customer at your fingertips. And so if I wanted further information, I'm a sales rep. Before I reach out, let's make sure that they've actually paid the invoice. I would love to understand the company structure. Who are the decision makers? Who do I know? Who do I not know at this point? Because it's connected to Apollo or something like a Zoom Info, I would love to understand the tech stack. If I'm trying to, in this case, maybe sell NetSuite licenses to this client, I would love to understand what they might be using for inventory management, what they might be using for billing. Sure, give me the web profile, and why don't we add company news as well? And so in the background, you can see that Plato is hard at work. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see a thread of all of these answers, right? So we talked about invoice information. Here's the outstanding invoices. Good to know. Maybe I layer that into my talk track. Beyond that, tech stack information. So you can see, my apology, this is actually the company structure information. So you can see a bunch of key leadership positions, other notable positions, all things that I can dive into. Further on, you'll then see the tech stack, bunch of information as Apollo went and scraped that for me. And the list goes on, but this is a lot to read and I'm on the go. Maybe I got that call from my manager while I was out for lunch. Not a problem. Summarize this, if I could spell, into a 30-word email. How targeted, and it's still working. My keyboard would work.
Jeff, could you imagine that one day Plato's going to tell you the CFO's handicap in golf so you can let the person win?
There you go, personal touches, right? And so what you're going to see is a quick recap. This to say, change this into a prospecting email outlining the how would, as an example, how would NetSuite help this organization? And so based on all the context, based on some of the stakeholders that are there, based on the company news where they might be going through M&A activity, they might be preparing to IPO, what you're going to see here is a quick summarization based off of that information, which I could then even package into an email. So in summary, once you have your information consolidated in trusted platforms, especially in and around many of the process areas that we've discussed today, you're able to then take it one step further, layering on a model, and as mentioned, Anthropic in our case, but then most importantly, a user-friendly interface that allows your individuals to get the information they need to be as most effective at the job in their direct work path. So much covered. I did see some stuff showing up in the chat here, so I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll answer any questions that are outstanding. Otherwise, we can give the folks some time back in their day. Let me just stop my screen. Awesome.
Jeff, it just amazes me every time I see Plato how natural the language is getting even further. Like, you don't have to structure the questions in a very specific manner before you get the results you're looking for. The way that you're typing it in is very, very conversational, natural language, and that's the amazing part as it gets better and smarter and smarter.
Totally. We do have a question here. What's the biggest benefit of migrating to NetSuite over something like a QuickBooks? To summarize the question we got here later, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, do you want the harsh truth? Okay, so I have a very strong feeling about this, that if your business is ready to make a transformational shift, you have to remember that QuickBooks is a bookkeeping application. It is not an ERP. ERPs are very special breed that basically has all of your operations under one roof. It is expansive. As you grow in your business, it is going to grow with you. There are companies that I've worked with that only use a fraction of NetSuite, but in their minds, they can see the roadmap and say, okay, in 5 years, our business goals are going to be X, Y, and Z. NetSuite is our enabler to get there. And that's how a lot of these very strong and very, very mature organizations that we work with, we also help them prepare those roadmaps. But definitely we're doing a lot more getting people off of QuickBooks as they evolve. QuickBooks is great at the start when you're just a small, agile team, and then things start happening, things start growing, you start maturing. Different questions are being asked by your C-level folks, or maybe you hire a new CFO, or maybe you never had a CFO and the CFO comes in, or CTO or CRO, and you ask questions and you're like, oh, I don't know. Or if I were to get that information, I have to break out Excels upon Excels and maybe get some information from this person and that person, versus asking Plato, having standard dashboards, having metrics that are important to your organization that are at the ready, kind of like that dashboard that Jeff showed you. And again, your metrics might differ from other industries or even other companies within your industry. So it's important for you to sit down with someone like myself to say, okay, this metric is important to us. We'll obviously ask why, and also help you make that determination and make sure, obviously, break out that information out of your system. So we can go on why don't stay on QuickBooks. The biggest thing is about growth. You're going to hit the ceiling very, very quickly if your organization is growing at a fast pace, and you don't want to crash hard against that ceiling. Jeff, anything you want to ask? Because you talk to people more than I do. They've already made the decision by the time they talk to me. What are kind of things that you're hearing about why QuickBooks is just not working for them anymore?
Yeah, I think I've gotten this from you, is that it is an accounting tool. It's not an ERP. And as an organization continues to scale and grow and introduces either new product lines, has aspirations of inorganic growth through M&A or in preparation to IPO, one of the things that are in the way of that is typically the system. And so QuickBooks, I think you ultimately end up conforming to the way that it operates, and you carry a lot of baggage that I think slows you down in regards to streamlining the lead to cash process. So generally, when you hit that point of critical mass, there's a aha realization that this isn't going to be the home my financials and others will be living in moving forward. And so typically it overstays its welcome. And where we can help is, I think, the hardest part's getting started and understanding how caloric or not a transition to a tool like NetSuite can be. And here at Plative, selfish plug, we have, as Larry mentioned, been able to build IP to really accelerate one's path to NetSuite, especially in the software as a service space, where we've gotten many organizations up and running live in 60 days. And so when you remove the barrier of time to value, it then becomes more of a no-brainer decision. So I think growth and QuickBooks are in contraction or contradict one another. And when that realization comes to light, that's usually where we swoop in and help.
One thing I want to add to what you just kind of talked about, Jeff, because this webinar has been very focused on SaaS billing pieces. When you move to an ERP, remember, there's the other side of the ledger. Perhaps you need more stringent controls or intelligence out of your procurement piece. Maybe your procurement is a lot more complex, and as it's growing, expenses are getting more and more difficult to track or control. Maybe you have fixed assets, fleet of vehicles, software, hardware, leaseholds. These are all things that an ERP can help you with. And again, it's combining that data, making it all make sense together, so that when, I think Jeff showed a diagram earlier about data going back into Salesforce, it's all about getting that, consolidating that information so that you can make sense of the full picture of that whole full voyage that Jeff showed, rather than just, oh, what happened from a billing perspective. Because I'm sure at the very top of that chain where Jeff was looking at, marketing wants to know, hey, how did we do? How do we do? You know, what the chief marketing officer is asking us how well this campaign is doing, right? You want to be able to go back with correct evidence. We've generated this much in sales, this much in revenue, recurring revenue, very little churn, all the metrics that are important to you.
Love it. And we have been selfish in taking 4 additional minutes of everyone's time here. And so we'll wrap there, but thank you so much for participating in our recent installment in regards to revolutionizing your operations with SaaS. If there's anything that we can do to help as a result of today's presentation, you know where to find us. Head to our website, log a contact us form. We'll be following up with this content as well. But thank you for taking 49 minutes out of your day to spend some time with Larry and I. Take care, all.
Thank you.
Bye.